Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very, very special stream to bring to you today. We have Dr. Patrice Berry, who is a psychologist, who will be joining us today to be talking about several trials that we are all following and very interested in. So without further ado, let me bring Dr. Berry to the stage. Hello and welcome, Dr. Berry. How are you today?
Doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I am so excited. I know our chat is excited. Our community is excited to hear your insight and your opinions on these trials that we've been all watching and covering. I know you have a fantastic channel that you do really great work in talking about Carlos and all other kinds of alleged criminals that we that we cover and we follow. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's start with Carlos, if that's
Yes.
okay. Okay,
Yes.
so Carlos, just a quick overview for people that may not be familiar with him. This is going on in Davis, California, which is near Sacramento, University of California, Davis, where he attacked, stabbed three individuals, and two of them passed away. One of them did survive. Hung. They found him on the two gentlemen who passed away, which was David and Kareem. The third woman, Kimberly, who survived, the jury was hung on that. So there's a retrial happening right now. The state has rested. The defense is offering their case right now. So his case basically revolves around schizophrenia. So what I would love to talk to you, Dr. Berry, is just in general, like what's your opinion on the case, on the trial from last year, it being hung versus now the retrial versus schizophrenia, seeing all the experts. Well, let's just dive into it and let you opine, and we can then ask questions as we go along.
Awesome. And thank you so much for streaming it. So I've caught up a little bit on your streams.
Mhm.
This I think they're in week 4 or 5. So this trial has been going on for quite a while. I
Yes.
haven't followed every moment. I'm interested in the state's rebuttal case
Mhm.
because the defense is in the midst of, they're presenting their evidence because he's pled not guilty by reason of insanity. He
Mhm.
does have a history of schizophrenia, and it seems like he didn't fully accept that diagnosis. He wasn't aware that he was actively psychotic, and I think the defense expert did a good job explaining that.
Mhm.
Often individuals with schizophrenia, they will often think that there is nothing wrong with them,
Mhm.
and getting them to comply with treatment can sometimes be very difficult. And I really thought the defense expert did a really good job just breaking down a lot of the topics in this case. And I want to see what the state's expert does in rebuttal.
Mhm.
With NGRI, it's incredibly hard because it's not just that the person has a mental health diagnosis; it's that they did not understand the wrongfulness of their actions. So
Mhm.
if the person runs after, if they hide the weapon, if they do things where it seems like the person understood that it was wrong, that taking someone else's life is wrong, then that's where they can often be found guilty by
Mhm.
a jury.
Mhm. Now, Carlos did not know he had schizophrenia until after he was arrested, and he went through multiple evaluations. And in the first trial, we heard from the social workers, we heard from the psychiatrists, we heard from the psychologists. They were court appointed. I believe there was only one that was not court appointed that the defense hired. But watching that really helped me understand the whole process of what of malingering. You can't fake this. It's almost impossible to because there's all these tests and evaluations. Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Like how like a lot of people say, oh, he's faking, she's faking. Like, can you talk a little bit about malingering and how it's nearly impossible to fake it?
And with schizophrenia, because he has some of that flat affect, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of lack of emotional expression, kind of odd movements, that the defense expert talked about. And I think they also talk they because they don't just take the person's word for it, they interview their relatives.
Mhm.
And their relatives likely talk about, yeah, from about 15, 16 or set, like there was this decline in their functioning. They were saying these odd things. So they don't just take the person's word for it. They
Mhm.
also interview the people around them as well. And I think it was clear to everyone that yes, he was in a state of psychosis, and he has responded well to medication.
Mhm.
And just because somebody responds well to medication does not mean that the court will um, find them not guilty by reason of insanity. But yeah.
Mhm. Right. Um, let's talk a little bit about when schizophrenia can come on.
Mhm.
We heard through a couple experts that it usually is around 18, 19, 20 for men, and then women it's a little bit later because of the brain developing and all that. Do you feel that Carlos is kind of almost textbook where he was okay? Like there was that one video of him, he had a YouTube channel and he was in high school and he was this funny, outgoing, individual, was the captain of his football team, ran track, I believe. And then he gets to college and all of a sudden, it just hits him. So is he kind of fits that textbook, if you will?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I wanted to explain because there is this prodromal period, because the psychiatrist talked through that, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a very clear way. There's a period where the person starts exhibiting odd behavior and they start to decline
Mm-hmm.
before they have their first psychotic episode. So there's
Okay.
this period where they start withdrawing from others, they start to engage, but which could be a variety of things, because it could be, somebody with social anxiety, or like there could be a lot of different reasons for that. But we
Mm-hmm.
see that in schizophrenia, where before the first psychotic episode there is this period, and when somebody has a psychotic episode we have to rule out other diagnoses as well, because there can be depression with psychosis, there can be bipolar disorder with psychosis, like there can be other diagnoses that fit.
No, that's a great point. Like you just don't wake up one day and have a mental break. I mean, it is a slow process. It could take months, years. And with Carlos, we heard from Kaylee, his girlfriend, saying when he first came to school and they met, he had impeccable hygiene, short hair, clean shaven, showered a couple times a day, even because I think he was in sports, right? So he would shower in the morning probably, and then after sporting. And then I think it was like his sophomore year, she noticed the decline. His sister also noticed when he came home from school on, I think, a summer break between freshman and sophomore year. He was just staring at the wall. I think they had a birthday party, if I'm not mistaken, and he was just like in his room the whole time. So that's a great point that it does. It's like it's like a roller coaster, right? It's like that slow climb up, and then you have that break. So let's talk a little bit about that break. Like what are some of the causes of somebody slowly declining? In my metaphor, I'm saying climbing up the roller coaster. Like are there moments, are there moments that you can trace back that caused just that mental break?
For everybody that's different. For some people
Mhm.
it can be a stressor, so it can be they lost it can be a major stressor, but there's been this buildup
Mhm.
sometimes. But we've used schizophrenia as a biochemical where there's an overproduction of dopamine, and so the medications are often looking to balance neurotransmitters, and
Mhm.
on the medication people often do well. Off the medication, that's where the psychosis, hearing voices, seeing things, delusional thoughts, paranoia, that's where some of that can happen.
Mhm.
And the individual thinks they're fine, they think they're normal.
Right.
They don't, they're often, they, what we say, lack insight. They don't
Mhm.
realize that, they haven't showered in a month, and
Mhm.
they're not seeing that there's anything wrong with it, because they're in that alternate reality. Because we also say that there's a break of reality testing, where this person is saying I'm fine, but they're not eating regularly, they're not taking care of themselves, they're engaging in unsafe behavior, and they don't see it.
Right. To them, everything is normal, which
Yeah.
is frightening, when you think about that. So you kind of touched upon some positive and some negative
Yes.
attributes. You want to talk a little bit more about, like, some people think, oh, positive is what, negative is what. Can you kind of just sort of explain that? What is the difference between a positive and negative?
And positive symptoms are just it means so experiencing hallucinations, delusions. Negative is a lack of something. So lack of emotion, lack of energy, where lack of desire to do things. That's called anhedonia. He also talked about one. It was like a lack of motivation. That was a
Hmm.
little bit different.
Hmm.
And he is a psychiatrist. I am a psychologist. So
Hmm.
he is a psychiatrist or medical doctors that get additional training in psychopharmacology. And then I am so I and psychiatrists can do therapy. Most do medication management.
Hmm.
Um, and um, and with individuals with schizophrenia, so I have had clients with that diagnosis. I
Hmm.
always work with their psychiatrist to make sure that things are being communicated clearly if there are concerns, because he even talked about sometimes people stabilizing and then wanting to come off of their medication, and how he if somebody is going to do that, he makes sure that he has their roommate's information or family member, somebody else's perception, because that the person can rapidly decline and the symptoms actually be worse than when
Hmm.
they were than before their first psychotic episode.
Yeah. Dr. Steve Siegel was the expert for the defense, and I thought this was a really great statement. He said schizophrenia is a trait like height, and
Mm.
psychosis is a state. So you, like schizophrenia, it's there. You have it. You can't ever not have it. It's like your nose, So was that excuse me, was that accurate? Do you agree with that?
And it's treatable,
Yeah.
so that with medication, the
Hmm.
individual can have some level of functioning. He talked about a rapid decline sometimes, that when a
Hmm.
person when the diagnosis does present, some people fall. So somebody that was average will sometimes fall. When we do intelligence testing, there will be a cognitive decline
Hmm.
that can happen. I've seen that in practice, but I hadn't looked at the research for that. And so
Hmm.
that was interesting to hear. And that can be there can be a grief for the individual, because they're used to being high achieving. They're used to doing all these, and now they can't finish an email sometime, or like, so that the change in functioning
Hmm.
can sometimes lead to increased depression or different things like that. But I like to remind people that mental health is health, because
Hmm.
sometimes people will just want to say, I want to get better where I don't need the medication. And for diagnoses like schizophrenia, the individual is likely going to need medication for the rest of their lives.
Right. I'm going to bring this question up from Jenny, but that's a really good point that you made, because Carlos started to not do his homework. He started to like, he wasn't able to fill out forms properly, complete forms and all that. So that's a really good point. So Jenny asks, what is the difference between paranoid schizophrenia and catatonic schizophrenia?
And I think of the DSM-5, they got rid of the catatonic designation.
Hmm.
So catatonic is an individual that just sits all day in a chair and they can just stare at the wall. And they're
Hmm.
like, and they don't so it's like a catatonic state where the person is existing, but they're not really engaging with anyone else. You
Hmm.
might ask them a question, they might not respond to you at all. So catatonia it's describing a specific state. Um, uh, Paranoid schizophrenia, that's just an individual that maybe thinks the government is after them. There's like they're that so they're they think that they're in a paranoid state. So
Hmm.
that's I hope that's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and catatonic, a very clear example of that was the police interview with Carlos after he was arrested. He literally just sat still, and I
I
believe
remember.
one of the jurors asked that question, because remember they had those boxes. It was almost like face recognition or was following, and I think one of the jurors asked that question: why didn't Carlos have a box around him? Because he didn't move. He literally didn't move for, like, what, 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that. So I would assume that would be considered
Yeah.
catatonic. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, all right. So the first trial, the state kind of brought in a little bit of his cannabis use. It was more on cross of the of the defense's experts. Now this go around, they're hitting it hard. They're going real hard on his cannabis use, and we found out through some testimony through his friends and his dealer that he was smoking every day when he got to college. I don't think in high school. I didn't think we heard any testimony on high school, but apparently when he got to college, he started to smoke and do whatever else with cannabis. So, can we talk a little bit about how does cannabis perhaps trigger schizophrenia? Does it play into it? Is there any correlation? And then we can talk about what Dr. Siegel talked about.
And so there can be a cannabis induced psychosis, but he did a really good job explaining that when the person stops using the substance, the psychosis goes away. So that
Mm-hmm.
would be a cannabis induced. Um, some people will self medicate. That's I see the use more like a self medicating,
Mm-hmm.
where maybe to stop the voices, the thoughts. I don't know what the substance was doing for him to really to fully understand, because if somebody is experiencing auditory hallucinations, uh, there are voices going. For some people they're going all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not sure if the voices are real or not, and if they are in an altered mental state, like sometimes that can be less distressing, or it can feel a little more almost normal, but if somebody is in a psychotic state, they should not be using substances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That was a great point. He said, especially after 30 days, like if
Yeah.
you're still exhibiting schizophrenic uh, symptoms after 30 days, certainly after 60 days, then it had nothing to do with cannabis, alcohol, meth, whatever else,
Mhm.
that people think it might have been.
And
Yeah.
so once again, that there was already this escalating, the diagnosis was already starting to present itself,
Hmm.
and the role that but even without cannabis, he likely still would have had schizophrenia.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, no, I think it was proven, like I said, in the first trial after watching five or six experts, come up and they all evaluated Carlos and they all had
Mhm,
the same conclusion and they were court appointed. So there's
mhm,
really they had no dog in the fight, if you will.
mhm,
The only one was bought by or she came in from the defense. They paid for her, but yeah, that was really eye opening. That trial, the first trial, was very eye opening to me on this whole thing, um, on schizophrenia and just how it plays into courts. And I think our chat grew from that as well. I think everybody came away a little bit more educated. So let's talk a little bit about. I want.
one second,
Oh,
can
sure,
we
sure, yeah.
I wanna make sure that everybody knows that individuals with schizophrenia are more likely to be the victim of a crime than to harm somebody else. I
Great
don't know
point.
if that testimony has come in, because sometimes people with schizophrenia end up in the margins of our society, and there are other societies that are able to maintain individuals with this diagnosis using less medication because they make a society that fits for them
Hmm.
versus
Agreed.
making them fit the society, if that makes sense.
It
And
does.
so because a lot of times individuals with schizophrenia, they end up homeless or unhoused. They end
Hmm.
up sometimes they do end up using substances, but I see it as more of a like a trying to just cope with everything, and still responsible. So a diagnosis does not excuse a behavior, it just kind of helps me understand, because the stigma with mental health can sometimes make it difficult for individuals to get help and support.
Absolutely. Um, Trig asks, I didn't know cannabis can induce psychosis. Did I hear that correctly? Um,
So not so but
mhm.
like so I've seen it where it was laced with something else.
Mhm.
So but there can it is in the DSM-5 for
Mhm.
some individuals, because it's that brain activity where that lasts even when the individual is no longer high, that the person is still is experiencing psychosis. So actually I know somebody that when they combined alcohol and cannabis, they would get paranoid, and so they could never ever combine those two
Mhm.
because they would but once they were sober, it went away, and there was no issue.
Right. That's great. That's great that they could have that relief.
Mhm.
Going back to Dr. Siegel and to Trigg's point there and your point, so he was asked uh, about did cannabis bring about the schizophrenia in Carlos, and he said retrospective studies show cannabis use shows a slight increase from 5 out of 1,000 to 7 out of 1,000, and use in that age group, which would have been 18 to 26, is at least 20%. So 98% exposed to cannabis don't go on to have schizophrenia. So to the defense's point, defense is saying Carlos's cannabis use did not trigger his schizophrenia. The state is saying, oh, he did this in a cannabis-induced paranoia state, and that caused him to go out. And he didn't have schizophrenia. It was just he was stoned out of his mind. So I thought that was really important to know. I didn't know that uh, percentage. So it went from 5 to 7. Only 2 out of 1,000 actually it triggered schizophrenia. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like what are your opinions on that?
No, and so I think it's interesting that the state isn't saying yes, a person can have a diagnosis and still be found legally responsible for what they did. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised they're fighting, because to me it's clear that he has schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't question that I don't think he's faking it. Like, I think it's pretty documented and clear that yes, he has it. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is, does he meet the legal criteria for not guilty by reason of insanity? And that's going to be up to the jury. There's some cases where the state agrees. The
Mm-hmm.
case is so agreed, like the way all the facts come out, and the state knows they could not get a guilty verdict, and the state agrees, yes, with the and they come to an agreement over NGRI. And this might be a good time to talk about the individuals that are found not guilty by reason of insanity. They are then put in the state's custody. They
Mm-hmm.
go to a state hospital, and they are often there for like 10 or more. They're often there for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
some for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's great because a lot of people in chat, especially last year, oh, he's gonna get put into an insane asylum and he's gonna have it easy. He'll be out in 2 years. No, that's not the case. Um, and I also challenge people. I challenged our community. If you think he's faking, try not brushing your teeth for a day, not taking a shower for 2 or 3 days, have snot dripping out of your nose like for hours, and see how you feel. Take that test.
And there are some people in a depressed state, they might, but it's a state that changes. With
Hmm.
schizophrenia, it often doesn't. There's this lack of awareness, and this, for some individuals, this isolation from society, where they truly do not see that what they're doing is odd or not okay. But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and so Carlos is never going to get out. He killed 2 people. I mean, let's just be real about that. He killed 2 people brutally too. It wasn't a gunshot to the head. He brutally killed 2 people and tried to kill a third. So he's never getting out. So the next question is: do you want him to rot in jail, or do you want him to actually have a shot of maybe having a somewhat productive life and help maybe somebody else who's going through this issue, and or maybe do some kind of outreach and help somebody who before they get to his point. So I think ultimately that's the question. And I know some people want him to rot in jail. I get it. And there's other people that say no. He is rehabilitatable, and he could still be productive in helping somebody else looking at his case. That's always my hope is that same with like Charles Jones and those guys. And if it's just one person sees that child and wow, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to make sure I don't go down that path, then it's worth it. Then
Yeah.
it's worth it. So
Yeah.
all right, let's see. Let's see. I know there's some questions here. Let's get to some questions. I saw some. Let me go to start. Here we go. Camilla asks, which other disorder could be mistaken by paranoid schizophrenia?
Yes. And so with schizophrenia and paranoia, I have to make sure that the person isn't actually in danger. So if I'm working with a client and so I'm not saying this for political reasons, but it's a reality. But if I'm working with somebody that's an immigrant and they're concerned that they might be picked up by ICE, that's
Mm,
not paranoia.
Mhm.
But if I'm working with somebody that thinks like they have tinfoil over everything in their house, and it's not just that, like it's a variety of things, and none of it's making any sense, and it's not in a way that's lying or malingering or trying to be manipulative. This
Mhm.
person fully believes this delusion, this paranoia. That is where and when they're on medication, those paranoid thoughts go away.
Mhm.
Another diagnosis that could kind of be that might be mistaken for it. For the paranoid part is hard, but schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, there is also schizoaffective disorder where
Mhm.
somebody has bipolar symptoms and schizophrenia symptoms that overlap. So a person can have what we call schizoaffective disorder. And
Mhm.
then there's this like, because sometimes it can be difficult, because you have to kind of observe somebody over 6 months or more to really accurately diagnose someone. I've
Mhm.
worked with people that have been incorrectly diagnosed with certain, yeah, where it
Mhm.
was really bipolar disorder, but they were diagnosed with schizophrenia,
Mhm.
or different things like that. Yeah.
Right. So Ed asked a great question because you were talking about
Yes.
homeless there. Is there a guesstimate on what percentage of the homeless have schizophrenia, or what percent of schizophrenia are homeless? And then I'll add to that, in incarcerated, because last year with Carlos I did some research, so we can talk a little bit about that. So what do you think? Is there a
So
guesstimate on that?
I think there's a large percentage with mental illness in general, so not
Hmm.
just schizophrenia, but other mental illnesses as well. Because sometimes, like combat veterans with severe PTSD,
Hmm.
sometimes they'll struggle with maintaining employment and they'll end up unhoused.
Hmm.
But I don't know those exact numbers.
Yeah. So then to piggyback, I think it was like 30, basically 33%, like one in third
Mhm,
of people incarcerated in California have
mhm.
some sort of mental disability, which just blows my mind. And prisons have essentially become de facto institutions,
And if I
no one
can
can
answer,
escape.
because
Sure.
Trig asked a question, this is
Sure.
not Dr. Siegel from Amber Heard, Johnny Depp. No, this is not. No.
No, we made sure about that. We,
So
yeah.
I live in Virginia. He practices or he used, I don't know if he still does.
Mhm.
But it is a very different, because I think that was Dr. Spiegel. I think it was
I
Spiegel,
think it
or
was
was it?
Spiegel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Or was it Smeagol?
Some I don't, yeah. I'm
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 kidding.
bad with names.
Yeah. Oh, Bianca Ellis. That's a great one, Lori. Yeah, she was actually found not guilty. She, I think, should have been put in a institution as well. We'll talk a little bit about her briefly. What do you think about her now?
So um
You won't hurt my feelings.
the
Don't worry.
the hard part about Bianca Ellis is, I think, um, so individuals with schizophrenia can still, so jails, if they would like their medication, the jail wants them on medication. So often
Hmm.
will be able to continue to receive medication in jail. It sounds like Carlos might be on a shot, because they were talking about the shot medication. So I'm not, because there's some medication where the person has to take it every day. That
Hmm.
sometimes is harder for individuals to stay consistent with. But there
Hmm.
are medications that are administered every 3 months or every 6 months, and the psychiatrist talked about that. Uh,
Hmm.
but with that question, um, um, with Bianca Ellis, I was glad that she was found guilty. Uh,
Hmm.
to me, it was clear that she understood that it almost seemed like she was trying to go back to jail because she
Hmm.
thought they stole her money. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because
Hmm.
remember, it all started with the
Hmm.
argument at the police station because she
Yep.
thought they stole her money. And
Yep.
so it almost seemed like she was trying to do a crime to go
Hmm.
back to jail,
Hmm.
to because of that.
Hmm.
And versus, I mentioned Ruth Miller before we went live. She
Hmm.
was an individual directly after her crime. She is over here like, my child's with God. Like,
Hmm.
and she's trying to witness, like, this is a miracle. You're gonna see, you know,
Yeah.
like, my child is in a big fish, and she was clearly disconnected from reality, did not realize like that, like she didn't fully realize what she had done. And individuals being found not guilty by reason of insanity is rare.
Mhm.
People try it, and some people do fake it. So when Letitia Stout attempted to say that she had dissociative identity disorder, which we'll get into with the next case,
Yes, yes.
um, it was very, no, like her
Mhm.
actions, to me it was clear that she was trying to cover a crime.
Mhm.
And versus the individual that when the police arrive there, they act in a very different way.
Mhm. Gotcha. I think I can answer this question from Stacy. Is schizophrenia genetic? Based on the testimony by Dr. Siegel, he said yes. Is that correct?
And what it is there's no one thing that causes,
Mhm.
because he did say there's no one gene that
Right.
causes it. It's if your mother and father have it, there's a 50-50 chance you might get. So it's not 100%.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
twins, so genetic 100%, they one it's they call it monozygotic, where the one embryo splits into two people,
Mhm.
where they share all the same genes. If one twin gets it, there's a 50-50 chance the other twin might get it, but it's not 100%. Because if it was genetic, it would be 100%
Mhm.
of monozygotic twins would get it. It's a combination of stressors, of things in your life, of and then there's some things that we just can't explain, even with a ton of science. So there are a bunch of different factors. So we say nature, nurture, a little bit of both. It probably
Mhm.
falls a little bit of both.
Yeah. No, I'm fascinated by the nature versus nurture
Mm.
aspect. Heidi asks, the flat affect we see in Carlos, is it due to the schizophrenia or the antipsychotics or both?
It's likely both.
Mhm.
So, individuals with schizophrenia will present with that flat affect. He called it restricted affect,
Mhm.
where they might describe being happy, but they're not smiling. They're not. There's no change in their tone. It's all very
Right.
flat.
Right.
And the medications do not address those symptoms. There are some antipsychotics that can make some of that worse.
Mhm.
Because he talked about the motor issues and all of that.
Right. And we see Carlos in the first trial, just basically sat there like this the whole time, day in, day out. This trial, basically sitting there day in and day out. Which also we watch a lot of trials, and the defendant doesn't show emotion, and I'm always like, chat's like, oh, they're not crying, or oh, they're crying. I'm like, they're kind of damned if they do, damned if
Yeah.
they don't. So I don't put too much credence, and I know for a fact that some defendants are told not to show any emotion because that's gonna because you may get yelled at by the judge if Donna Adelson
Mhm.
if you show emotion. Um, yeah, I don't put too much credence on that. Although I think in Carlos's case, he definitely is the flat affect. Good vibes. If you have time to talk about it later. I was going to bring that up. Actually, I was going to bring that up. We will get back to Lindsay Clancy. That's the next big one. We will absolutely be covering that. So we'll put a pin in that one for sure. I was going to talk about that later for sure.
And if people
Um,
check out my channel, I do
yes.
have a video, because I saw somebody ask about Lori Daybell.
Mhm.
I have a whole playlist on
Fantastic.
her.
Okay.
And I did do a video. I think I have two videos on. I have one or two videos on Lindsay Clancy.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So we won't spend time on that then. Definitely go watch videos instead of us opining here. Let's see. Ladybug's mom says, can someone be coerced maybe into thinking they are not right?
Mhm.
Oh, gaslighting, or oh wait, that plays into Isaac and Kiara,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right?
So do you want to come back to that
Yeah,
later?
we'll come back. Yeah, Ladybugs,
Mhm.
we'll come back to that. I'll leave that starred, so we'll come back to that. Um, see, Wild Angel offering some, let's see, personal insight here. My cousin was diagnosed in the early 80s before medications and had a lot of shock treatments. Ouch.
Mm.
Didn't help. Do they still do those? Would medication help someone with old diagnosis? And then the lobotomies too. I mean, is that still a thing?
So lobotomies, it didn't make the symptoms go away. And like it,
Mhm.
it made it to where the person, maybe somebody that was really aggressive or something, but so they normally they don't do those things anymore.
Mhm.
Shock treatments. So there is something called TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which it doesn't hurt.
Mhm.
because the shock therapy they gave, it was actually painful.
Mhm.
TMS is like magnets that kind of
Mhm.
help rewire the brain, but that's
Mhm.
for severe depression. That's for maybe PTSD. I haven't seen research on it with schizophrenia, and shock therapy is not medication can often help the person. Sometimes they have to find the right one. So sometimes the person is put on one medication and it's not the right fit, and they have to try a different medication. Each person's body is different, and everybody responds differently.
Gotcha. Let's see. We'll touch briefly on this. Jenny Lynn, not really a question. The dark triad and deadly trio are areas of interest for Jenny Lynn. Do you want to talk about that insight? I'm not sure what those are.
So I think that so dark triad is narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. And I wonder if that
Mhm.
might relate to our next case, to Isaac, and not
Okay.
necessarily this one. Because
Gotcha.
I don't see dark triad, because that's often personality traits and things.
Okay.
I don't see that relating to this case. But
Okay.
I could see it potentially in our next case.
All right. We'll come back to that then too.
Mhm.
Seashell says if you're taking Xanos,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're taking it and stop.
So I don't know if that's a question
Yeah.
of, so I know if SSRIs, and Xanax, it's not that type of medication, but there are medications where if you stop abruptly, you can have certain symptoms.
Mhm.
I've heard of some people experiencing like psychosis on like Ambien or like different medications. It's not, they're not actively psychotic. It was that the substance made, I don't know, because even sometimes with uh anesthesia, people might
Mhm.
say they see fairies or something, but it's
Mhm.
the and that would be more of like a substance inducing something for a moment
Mhm.
versus somebody, whether they're on the substance or not, exhibiting psychosis.
Gotcha. And I just real briefly, we watched this
Yes.
morning Lindsay Clancy kind of overview or whatever. She was on 13 psychotic or antipsychotic medications, so I think that's going to play heavily into her trial.
And yet, because once again we're saying, so a person, two things can be true at the same time. A
Mm,
person can have postpartum psychosis, and then also if they intentionally send their spouse away in
mm,
order to do, I don't know, so that's where it's going to be on the jury.
mhm,
And the jury may want her to be in that type of treatment
mhm,
versus being found guilty.
mhm,
I'd be interested to see what other information the state has, what those searches were like, because I
mhm,
don't know that she communicated to her doctors if she was having thoughts of harming the children. So
mhm,
I've worked with people where if they start having thoughts towards their children, we say you can't be alone with them. Like that's a
mhm.
part of our safety plan. If
Yeah.
I'm working with somebody and if it gets that bad,
Mhm,
we, until those thoughts go away, because in the moment a person can do something.
mhm,
Um, Psychosis, especially auditory hallucinations, voices telling somebody to do things. We get very concerned about that, and we want to make sure that's addressed,
mhm,
because people can start to question what's real and what's not. But with the legal side, it then goes to a jury to decide whether it meets the legal definition or not.
sure. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting trial. We will definitely cover that, and then we'll have to have you back on, and we can have another conversation because Carlos might be done by then. Well, maybe not. Anyway, Stacy, do they give defendants substances for trial?
And so if they're open to it. So
Mhm,
most, because on medication, he is going to function better. He's going to be safer for himself
mhm,
and others in the prison. You do not want individuals that are actively psychotic, and because sometimes they might even be required to take medication if they're being aggressive towards themselves or others. They can end up on a psych unit where they're administered what we call like Haldol. That's like a one. That's a strong, it's an old generation antipsychotic.
mhm,
If a person becomes dangerous to themselves or others, they can lose the choice of
mhm.
whether they want to be medicated or not for a period of time.
Right. We talked before we started. Is it Diabra or Diabra?
Oh yeah,
Redden? Yeah, yeah.
Britain.
Was he not on meds when he jumped the judge, or what
So,
was?
and the bad thing, they were trying to get them. So
Mhm.
he was, there was an issue with him getting access to his medication. Now
Mhm.
he was still found guilty but mentally ill, and
Mhm.
he'll be able to get mental health treatment and then finish the rest of his sentence in prison. He had done mental health court multiple times and he had struggled with medication compliance. I think it was like a pharmacy sub, like he ended up not having his medication and I think he was trying to access it, but he was still responsible for his behavior
Yeah.
during that point. I wish his lawyer noticed that he wasn't okay, and I
Mhm.
think he thought in his mind he was going to go home. And when the
Mhm.
judge was going to give him jail time, I think
Yep.
he
Yep.
snapped and but he was still
Yep.
held responsible. And that state, because that happened in Nevada, they
Mhm.
have guilty but mentally ill as an
Mhm.
option. He initially attempted NGRI,
Mhm.
and they later talked with the state, and the state agreed to accept the guilty but mentally ill.
Right. I definitely want to get into that because that's impulse control, and that kind of like plays into our whole title. What makes somebody cross the line? What makes somebody break bad? So I want to get back to that, but let's just real quickly, Rona. I want to get to a few more questions here. Your mom had electric shock treatment after nothing else helped with her depression. What bad side effects will that cause? Thanks.
Yeah. So normally that's administered by a medical doctor. So
Mhm.
as a psychologist, I don't administer. So a medical doctor would prescribe that and administer that.
Mhm. This is a great question by Kaylee. With auditory delusions, do the voices ever tell people to do good things for others? How about that? It's always go kill, do this, do that. That's negative. Is there anything? Hey,
Go help somebody.
go help here, make $1 million and give half of that away to the homeless or something.
There could.
Yeah.
There could.
Hmm.
The ones we're concerned about are the ones where a person might be a risk to themselves or others, where
Right.
it's a voice saying your ear is evil, cut off your ear or something. Because
Right.
people have unfortunately listened to a voice like because sometimes it can get chronic and very intrusive,
Hmm.
and so everybody hears their voice in their head. So it
Hmm.
doesn't mean
Yes,
so
I
if
know I
you
do. I fully admit that.
if you if you talk to yourself, so when I am assessing for psychosis and somebody says, because a question I normally ask is, do you ever hear, do you hear things other people don't hear? If somebody
Mhm.
says yes, I have more questions. They're not
Mhm.
automatically psychotic. But if
Right.
they say like, I'm constantly hearing somebody call my name and I'm at home all by myself and there's nobody there. There like so that's where, and it doesn't sound like my voice. It sounds like da da da. Sometimes in grief, people
Mhm.
can briefly experience um some symptoms and I'm careful. And then there are some people that experience like spiritual.
Mhm.
So I don't diagnose somebody as psychotic if they say they hear the voice of God, but if the God's voice is telling you to annihilate the population, then okay, wait a
Mhm.
minute, like that might, because there are religious delusions and religious
Right.
psychosis. So I
Right.
have to assess those things. But yeah.
One of our chatters asked, like, what happened in, like, 500 or 1,000. They were either, I would consider, either prophets, right, or they
Or
were possessed
they
by a
yeah,
demon, right?
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it wasn't well. When did like schizophrenia kind of come about? Was that like after World War II, or were we aware of it before then?
So the DSM-1,
Hmm.
let me see. So the things were always present,
Hmm.
but let's see when the DSM-1, the first version of the DSM, 1952 was
Okay.
when we organized. So and it's released by uh the Psychiatric Association, so by
Hmm.
psychiatrists.
Hmm.
But
Seems like a
mental,
lot of things came out of World War II, right? It
yeah.
seems like a lot of things came out of World War II. So maybe we were kind of talking about it before then with Freud and all that, but it seems like maybe, like you said, it coalesced after, in the 50s. That seems to be kind of the starting point for a lot of things.
Mm.
Let's see here. Let's see. We did the auditory. Let me just see if we have a lot. Oh, this is an interesting question. What do you think about ketamine?
So that's normally I've had clients do that under medical supervision.
Hmm.
So people have to be careful. I watched the Maya Kowalski trial.
Hmm.
People can end up, I don't know, there can be negative things that come up with it. But I've worked with some people with severe depression, and they've explored that option with their medical doctor. They found safe options for it. So I am a client-centered therapist where if my client wants to research something, I just want to help them find a safe way to do it.
Hmm.
So you mentioned ketamine, well, there's also like psychedelics are
Hmm.
sometimes used. They're specifically researching it for combat veterans because it
Hmm.
lets them process their trauma without activating the sympathetic nervous system and experiencing everything, and they're processing through their trauma better. But it's microdosing under under strict supervision of a therapist. There's often somebody else there observing to make sure for safety and all those things. So
Sure. This is a great question. Actually, there's a couple good ones here. Nosy Rosie, do schizophrenic people think by doing substances it calms the voices, but actually makes delusions worse?
often individuals who are actively psychotic, especially with schizophrenia, they don't um often it's the people around them that get concerned before they do. And
Hmm.
sometimes they might isolate themselves because if their parent keeps telling them to go to the doctor or take their medication, that's when sometimes they might isolate themselves from their community. And so each person is different. But there are some people that use the substances to manage their symptoms. That
Hmm.
that that can happen.
Now, I'm assuming that would be the street versus pharmaceutical.
Either well, I'm talking about they use like cannabis or something. They're
Right, right, okay.
using or like if they're having trouble doing stuff, they might get addicted to a substance that gives that kind of helps them get up and do things. And so
Gotcha.
um um uh and with the voices getting worse, sometimes the person doesn't understand if their functioning is starting to spiral down.
Right. And Barry asks, do other countries use that DSM? It is universal or
So,
global? Or-
the ICD is the international coding ICD-10. I think we're on 10 or 11 right now. So there's
Mhm.
an international system because there are diagnoses that aren't in the DSM that are in the international system. So
Mhm.
complex PTSD is in the international system, but it's not in the American because this is specifically released by the American Psychological Association.
Gotcha.
And so I think other countries use it as reference, but I think they have their and we all have very similar things,
Mhm.
but there is like an international coding system. Somebody mentioned that the UK uses it. Mhm.
Okay. I would think that there's a lot of sharing between
Yeah.
professionals.
Mhm.
I would think, especially if somebody has a breakthrough patient or something breakthrough, I know I would imagine there's a lot of sharing going on.
Mhm.
There was one I wanted to pull up. Nosy Rosie had a good question here. Um, is it possible that a person like Carlos can harm some but sees them as shadows, which is his defense, right? That's what he's saying. Can they ever retrieve that memory and see an actual person? So, do you get into like hypnosis at all? Like, can you like first of all, is that a thing for you? And then second, oh,
Yeah, so hypnosis can be suggestible. So that's where
mhm,
you wanna be so I normally don't recommend hypnosis to
okay,
find traumatic memories
okay,
because the person can think they found I don't know, like, it can be really open to suggestion,
gotcha.
and, the defense expert did a good job talking about recall memory
Hmm.
versus recognition memory. So I
Hmm.
don't know, because often so if you and I remember in college they would mention if you study drunk, you but you take the test sober, you're not gonna be able to you have to in
Yep.
order to remember, you have to be in the state you were when it happened, and we
Hmm.
don't want him back in that
Hmm.
actively psychotic state.
Good
And
point.
so, they might have shown him things, and sometimes our brains protect us from fully
Hmm.
remembering everything, and I don't know if it's any strategy to fully to, like, not fully remember things.
Hmm.
So, I don't know what he remembers, but it wouldn't be uncommon. I've worked with people, that in their psychotic state where they truly do not remember, like, exactly what happened, what they did. They'll look at their writing and be like, because it's gibberish. Like, the
Mhm.
writing, everything is very disorganized, disconnected, but at the time, they felt, this was inspired and this was they're writing this amazing book, and
Mhm.
then once they're stable, they look at it and they're like, "Oh, wow."
There's a great Family Guy episode where Peter and they get stoned and they start playing music and they think it's like the best thing since sliced bread, and then they look back on it, it's just them going rah, rah, rah. So yes, it can definitely have impact on that. Um, Analytical One says there are people who say they do not have an internal voice. Have
Mhm.
you heard of this before?
Um, and so it's not something that, because it wouldn't be a problem. So if somebody
Mhm.
doesn't have an internal voice, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem. I would
Right.
also wonder if they're neurodivergent.
Mm.
Because sometimes people that are neurodivergent, their brains are just wired different.
Mhm.
And because there's some people where they can't think inside their head, they have to say it out loud. Like, they
Mm.
can't think
Mhm.
inside their head. Uh, and yeah.
My lips are sealed. Have you ever experienced a person who has verbal hallucinations?
So I think you mean auditory. So, like, where
Mhm.
they're so I have worked with individuals that have had visual, auditory, paranoia delusions. I've been practicing under supervision since 2005 and
Mhm.
under my own license since 2010.
Mhm.
And I've worked in state hospitals, I've worked in juvenile justice settings, I've worked community mental health, I've worked in a lot of different settings.
Mhm.
I also worked inpatient mental health as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Let's see. Trial fan. Sorry you're late. Can you please discuss the effects of illicit street on substances on people who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia? We kind of touched a little bit about that with cannabis. What about like other like meth, bath salts? I mean, there was that one case out of Florida where that kid took bath salts or meth or whatever, and he went and he chewed on some poor, you know, couple's
So
faces, and yeah.
when a person is actively psychotic, I would want them to get stable.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that they do that where they're not stable, because there's already this break with reality, and then we're adding a substance that can further alter an already disconnected reality.
Right.
So, with mentioning the shadows, um, and him not realizing that he was stabbing people, um, uh, that will be up to the jury to um to determine, is he not guilty by reason of insanity. The first jury couldn't get there. I think
Mm-hmm.
there were some people on the first jury that wanted to convict on second degree, and some
Mm-hmm.
people that wanted to convict on NGRI. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
interesting if they're hung again.
Yeah.
This is a difficult one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a complicated one.
It really is. It really is. And I wonder, will the state try him a third time if it is hung again? Like, how many times can you try somebody?
And they might accept an NGRI, because at least then it's not a it's a he's still under, because he's in prison, but, like, they're administering his medication. He might still be receiving therapy. If he is
Mhm.
still receiving therapy, that because he's saying not guilty by reason of insanity, that therapist like he doesn't have confidentiality.
Mhm.
Because when you say NGRI, all of your mental health records, up even through the trial, everything comes into play.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I would expect that. Yeah. Um, let's see. This is a good one by Ed. Beyond the thoughts, I knew a schizophrenic presented that I only saw presented as switching thoughts and mentally jumping around. Is it common to have that and not the imaginary thoughts?
So
Yeah.
the person might not have fully seen their internal disorganization.
Mm,
Also, if the individual was on medication, so on medication, you might not know whether somebody has schizophrenia or not.
mm,
But unmedicated in active psychosis, and somebody with schizophrenia, they might not stay in a state of active psychosis every day. It often is, but like at a different, so there might be like a mild degree where it's just these just kind of constant voices. It can be moderate where they're starting to kind of they're not taking care of themselves. The symptoms are starting to get more severe or
Mhm.
starting to have less functioning. And then severe would be where they're being unsafe towards themselves or others.
Oh, that's right. So I guess my lips are sealed is clarifying. So verbal when it's spoken in the third person.
Not in my office because
Mhm.
I'm not I don't think so.
Okay,
I wouldn't have called it that.
gotcha.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, let's see. There are a lot of really great questions here. Oh, this would be personal. Let's see. Have you ever been affected emotionally where you want to stop treating somebody, or just a session, or have you ever felt threatened where you need to be like, I need a break?
So, I used to do community-based mental health, and there were
Mhm.
times where I had to either get a parent or family member involved with a session because it became unsafe, or I did have to have police intervention because. But this was a situation that was already. I was in the home because there were safety concerns, and we were trying to help things be stable so they wouldn't have to be hospitalized, but sometimes individuals needed to be hospitalized.
Mhm.
There have been times where like a client's story has touched me, and I might
Mhm.
have teared up, but like it wasn't my issues, so I'm not bawling in therapy because like my mom a bit. I don't know, like I'm not like crying about my stuff.
Mhm.
There have been moments, but I really try to manage my emotions so that a
Sure.
client doesn't feel like their story is too big or their
Mhm.
issue is too much, that they can feel safe, seen, heard. And I work with individuals with very complex trauma, very complex histories, and I've heard a little bit of everything. I have had situations where I had to stop working with somebody because virtual services weren't working. They needed in person, and we didn't live in the same area. So I referred them to a provider in their local area because not every client is suitable. So if I had somebody that was diagnosed, I wouldn't personally do telehealth only with somebody with schizophrenia with a history of being hospitalized in the last year.
Mhm.
We could do telehealth sometimes, but not all the time because there is something about somebody being in your office and sitting with them where
Mhm.
there are things I can see, there are things I can pick up on that
Of
just
course.
aren't communicated via telehealth. So
Absolutely. Well, you're human, you want to help your patients and your
yeah.
clients, and when you do, it's a great feeling. And when, somebody falls through the cracks, I'm sure it affects you. So I would expect that. Um, let's see. Rona asks, is there just one type of medication? This is a great question to treat schizophrenia or many.
There are multiple. So there are
Mhm.
new generation antipsychotics, some of which are mood stabilizers. So
Mhm.
risperidone, Seroquel, and in lower doses, it can be used to treat bipolar disorder or severe depression. At higher doses, it's used to treat psychosis. And then the traditional first generation antipsychotics, which have that higher risk for that tardive dyskinesia, those stiff, rigid movements,
Mhm.
Haldol, and there are a few others
Mhm.
that are first generation. Each individual is going to respond different. So I've worked with individuals on all different types. Sometimes a person is stabilized on a medication for like 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden something's not working, and they have to I work with their psychiatrist with any of my concerns. But yeah.
I would think it's a constant evolving. It's not just, it's got to be dynamic. It can't just be like, here it is. Here's one pill, and you're going to use this for the rest of your life. It's going
Yeah.
to be constantly evolving and changing. Yeah. And then also a follow up to that would be, can you mix and match? And then how many can you be on safely? Probably not a certain number, but do you want to be on 10 different ones or five?
And so that's where that is a psychiatrist and I'm a
Mm,
psychologist. So I let
right.
people know I don't give medication recommendations. And
Right.
there's some medications, a lot of the antipsychotics cause weight gain. Like it
Mm,
makes the person crave carbs.
mm-hmm,
So like I've had clients gain like 40 pounds in like 2 months or something.
mm-hmm,
Like and so sometimes there can be side effects with the medication. Off of many of them make people feel like lethargic and lack of energy. And so I'm finding a balance, but the person is working with their psychiatrist. And if they're not feeling heard by their psychiatric nurse practitioner or by their psychiatrist, that's where I partner with them to make sure that they can like so I might write a letter communicating their concerns, and because it comes from Dr. I'm not in quotes because I really am a doctor, but because it comes from Dr. Barry, the
mm-hmm,
like the psychiatrist might listen, but the client's been saying the same thing for the past, 3 months or whatever. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Right. All right. So let's check this out, and then we'll switch gears and go into the New Mexico trial. So with Carlos, does the verdict depend on where he goes? Yes, but do you want to talk a little bit about that? If he's found not guilty, reason of insanity, like what would happen to him?
Okay. And so the defense is presenting their evidence that they believe he's not guilty by reason of insanity. The state is then going to present any experts or witnesses they have that will likely have a different opinion about that. They'll have a rebuttal case and then it'll go to the jury. So if the jury finds him guilty, he would go to prison. He would likely still have access to medication. They might place him knowing he has this diagnosis and he's been receiving services. That placement they'd likely try to place him somewhere that has a psychiatrist, that has a social worker, where he'd still be able to continue services because he's in jail, right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
so prison, or like it's the holdings place right now.
Right.
The long-term facilities often have like a dedicated psychiatrist that works with a variety. They have a dedicated psychologist and all those things. So yeah.
That's a great point because I think okay, you go to prison and there is no access
Yeah.
to medication. There is still access,
Mhm.
but it's just at a different level than if he was in an institution. Okay.
And they'll likely try to place him at a place that is the best fit
Okay.
for and I think his lawyers would likely advocate for him.
Hmm.
Um, and then some individuals, unfortunately, if they're still found guilty, sometimes they come off of their medication. Sometimes there can be meetings that happen if there are safety concerns where the person is like where they do where the doctor orders where against their will they still have to take medication if they're a
Hmm.
danger to themselves or others.
Right. So okay, so let's wrap up on Carlos. I'm sure we'll filter him back in, but any last comments on Carlos before we switch gears?
The chat has had amazing questions. No matter what. So people that are really I really feel for the jury
Hmm.
because they're the ones having his it's going to be in their hands,
Hmm.
and whatever the jury decides, I will support.
Hmm.
I want to hear the state's rebuttal before I because I know for the first trial, I think I was still on the fence of I could go either way.
Hmm.
But it really will be on a jury.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have the guilt phase and then we have the penalty phase,
Okay.
right? They're going to determine
It
what's
depends on
going to
this.
happen.
So
Yeah.
every state does that different.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Carlos is active. The defense is in their case in chief right now. We will be covering it sporadically, but for now we're going to switch gears to the New Mexico trial, which is Isaac Apodaca and Kiara McCulley. So just in case, I'll give a very brief overview of what's going on there. So Kiara and Isaac were living together in Kiara's mom's garage. It was a detached garage. Apparently, now according to Isaac, Grace, who was a girlfriend of his at one point, also a girlfriend to Kiara at one point. So all three of them dated each other at one point. Now, this is only coming in through Isaac. So we don't know if that's actually true or not, but that's what Isaac is saying. So Grace apparently is in Albuquerque. Kiara and Isaac are in Santa Fe. Isaac says Grace reached out to him saying, I'm in an unsafe place. Can I come stay with you guys? He says, sure, come on over. So Kiara did not like that. Apparently she got angry and not allegedly, I think it's proven now that she took a 3-foot sword and took Grace's life. Isaac is saying he had nothing to do with it. He went to the restroom in the house, came back and saw Grace on the floor. He leaves, calls his mom, then he calls 911. But then, as we watch the interview with law enforcement, there's all these text messages. So he's actually on trial for coercion, manipulation, yeah. So that plays into all of this. So with that as a backdrop, give us your impressions. Like, where do you stand with all this? What are your thoughts?
Anyone that is new to this case, please go over to Trial Live TV's channel and check out. There is an overview video that has the interrogation videos and body cam footage. And his interrogation video, he had specifics in a way that felt like a liar to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that something happened at 4:52.
He is very precise, very precise. He knows that they've been dating for like a year and 10 months, or he's been in the garage for a year and 1 month. I mean, he's very, very precise. Yeah, yeah. I caught that.
But in a way where, and I think at one point in the interview, he says, I'm telling the truth or something like that. Like in a way where he's trying to convince people and versus just saying what happened. And then he provides details that are not needed because the whole fact that he witnessed a friend, and I have more questions of like could he, I don't know, because
apparently he's in the back seat. His friend was getting married. He was the best man, or I think he said he was the best man, and then somebody walked up and shot his friend, and his friend's brains flew onto him, and he's got PTSD from that. And then I think somebody in chat said that was like maybe a drug deal gone bad or something like that. So I don't know that detail, but that's his story, is that his friend got shot and brains got onto him. So,
but you compare him to Kiara, who almost looks happy to, like, it's a very, her affect is very strange. I'm not sure what she is diagnosed with. I saw a question earlier about self-diagnosis, and back in this time, because this incident happened back in 2020, and there was an issue with people, especially on TikTok, unfortunately, people were self-diagnosing themselves with dissociative identity disorder. And to me, the way that she described it isn't, so I have met an individual that truly has dissociative identity disorder, and the host, that individual couldn't tell you about all of the personalities, because the personalities exist to protect the self, to protect the host. And so the way that she was talking about it just seemed like there were these parts of her that she wanted to separate from herself in a way to like minimize responsibility. Like there's this younger part, there's this protective part. And there's a good book by Dick Schwartz, I want to say that's his name, called No Bad Parts, that like we all have like a part of ourselves. It's like the good guy, bad guy type thing.
100%. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're two separate people with different names. And I think she was, because she even said that that Isaac had dissociative identity disorder, and he thought she had borderline personality disorder. And the two of them getting together was incredibly toxic, was dangerous. And I think there was a part of her that was always capable of doing what she did. But I think he kind of made it happen. So without him, I don't know that she would have did what she did.
Yeah. His text messages have yet to come in. They're going to come in on Monday with Detective Vahil. And I think like right now, I don't think the state has proven that he had a part in it. I think, but once, because we know, because we watched that law enforcement interview with him, we know that those text messages pretty much prove it. So those are going to come in. So Monday is going to be very, very explosive because Kiara is supposed to testify. A forensic psychiatrist is supposed to testify. And I guess we're going to start with Detective Vigil. Um, so she starts off her interview. Yeah, she's like, I have DID. Well, actually, she starts off with this claim about when she was 14. She was, there's a
Yeah.
video going around, and she says she was AR'd by 16 guys, and that it was Grace that was collecting money. And um, that's kind of what started their, her anger towards Grace. That has not been substantiated. Law enforcement has talked about that, and they were not able to verify that at all. So why would somebody make up something like that? Like, especially to
So
somebody they don't know. I don't know.
you're
What do you
talking
think
about
about that?
him? Are you talking about
No,
why Isaac
uh,
would do that?
no, no,
Or
no. Why would Kiara tell law enforcement
so, but
this?
I thought Isaac was the one that told her that he saw the video and he knows it was her. He knows it was Kiara.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yes, that is true. But I'm saying, okay, so I guess my question is, do you find it do you find it interesting that somebody who you've never met before tells something that deeply personal?
She was an open book that
Yeah,
day. I don't so
yeah,
with the rest of the interview, that wasn't the part that was shocking or surprising,
yeah,
because also I think that was the reason why she did what she did. So I think
yeah.
in some of those messages, I think she wanted Grace to admit what she had done, but I don't think Grace did that. So Grace
Mhm,
is probably like, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you know? Like
right,
I don't think that's what happened.
mhm,
Um I do think Kiara has a history of complex PTSD. We did not talk about the fact that Isaac had her doing adult
mhm,
work, and
right,
he was supposed, according to the state, he was keeping the money from that, and and so because he's saying that Grace did this thing to her, and then he's encouraging her to engage in intimacy for money, and he keeps the money.
mhm,
And so it was just it's the whole thing is just very convoluted.
mhm,
I'm glad they clarified during the trial that that all three of them were not lovers at the same time.
right, right,
And but I do think that Kiara was jealous of Grace.
mhm.
And
I can see that.
I think Isaac knew that. And I think he
Mm.
kind of played that up a little bit. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I know that Grace is a couple years older than Kiara, and I know that Grace, again, this is all according to Isaac. Well, this part is according to Isaac. He met Grace when he was 20 and Grace was 16.
Yeah.
So he admitted to the detective, he's like, I know that was wrong. So he admitted that. So that's out of his mouth. But I know that Kiara is probably a year to 2 years younger. So that means she was 14 at that time. So people were asking, well, who met who first? So I think it was so Grace and Kiara knew each other because Kiara knew Marjorie, who was Grace's younger sister. So
Yeah.
those two knew each other from like first grade, second, third grade. They knew each other for a long time. And then Isaac comes in. I guess he saw this video. Somehow he saw this video. He felt sorry for Kiara, and that's how they met. But he met Grace before. I think he met I think before he met Kiara. And then
Yeah.
they started to date. So they started to date, and then he started to date Kiara, I guess, a couple years later, I guess.
And Kiara and Grace had dated in the past when
Yeah.
they were teens. Yeah.
Right. 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 So, yeah, very, very convoluted, incredible story. We the other day, I guess it was day two or yeah, I think it was day 2 or 3 where they showed the sword, and then yesterday they went through all the medical examiner and all of the injuries. I think it was between 27 and 31 injuries. How like how can you wrap your head around somebody doing that to somebody else, and then a lot of the injuries to her neck and her head were post-mortem? Like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, put yourself in that frame of mind. Is that somebody just literally going berserk and just literally just disassociating what they're
So
doing? Like,
I'm not good at so because it sounded like she was hesitating with some according to the messages, which haven't come in yet. It
mm-hmm,
sounded like she didn't know because it sounded like he was telling her how to do it or something.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, using the
Um,
dagger versus the sword. One was blunt, one was sharp, or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. And, so I normally skip some of the details of because I'm more interested in their dynamic, and so I
Mhm,
did watch the friend's testimony, that the defense called,
mhm,
that I think at one point, it almost because at one point in the friend's testimony, it sounded to me like she admitted that it was, Kiara and Isaac's plan together, and
mhm,
not just Kiara's.
mhm,
And so I've definitely followed that part. I don't know as much about the, like so, like, when we get into, like, why somebody would do all of that part,
mhm,
I think there was a sadistic side
mhm.
to Kiara that was there. I think she might have wondered because even in the interview with police, she mentioned another guy that if he came around her, that she would also take out.
She had a
But
list. She had a list going.
but she seemed, I don't know if she's been diagnosed with any, but she seemed, a little manic to me. I can't diagnose her, I can't say that for sure, but
Mhm,
everything seemed off about her
mhm.
during that interview, and not in
Yeah,
a way that says that she's not responsible, but the way
right.
that she was talking, engaging, and interacting, it was all very, um, it was a lot.
Yeah. There were moments in her interview where she stumbled over words and she'd be like she kind of froze, you know. I don't know if you caught that or not. Um, she was very animated, which would go towards the manic part versus being depressive, right? She wasn't like this, you know. She was very animated. She was very engaged. Um, she has I'm going to diagnose her. I think she has serious anger issues because
But
she talked about holding uh, uh, I think holding a knife to Grace's throat or something. She had a list of people she was going to take out. She was like, "I'm so angry right now." You know, she was showing this outwardly, anger. So if anything, she definitely had some issues with her anger and then impulse control, right? I mean, I'm fascinated by people who I get angry. We all get angry. What makes you stop, and then what makes you cross that line? So can we talk a little bit about that?
yeah.
Like what yeah, go ahead.
So I think in Kiara's mind, she justifies her for me, there's nothing somebody can do to me that would make me take their life. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
for me personally, I'll
yeah.
call the police, I'll report the crime, but there's nothing, um uh so that's where I say there's this like sadistic side to,
Mhm,
like, I think she was fascinated. I think she might have thought that Isaac was cool, 'cause I don't
mhm,
know if it's true that he told her that he had taken out 40 people. I don't know if any of that was actually true,
mhm,
and I think they connected in that dark space in a way that other people might have pushed back. I was
mhm,
also concerned with the friend that was aware that she had talked about taking people out, and I don't know if she ever warned Grace.
mhm.
'Cause so me and my friends, we have never talked about taking I've never had a friend say, "I want to take somebody off this earth." Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right, right. Even as a joke. I mean, we all say, "Oh, I could kill you," but
I don't say
that's
that, but
it's a you know,
because of the work I do, so I
yeah.
assess people for homicidal, because that's a reason that, so, like, making that statement can
Mhm.
why you can end up in the hospital.
Mhm, yeah,
And so,
true.
because of the work I do, I
Mhm,
don't joke, I don't say, like, "Just go," because sometimes young kids will say, "Just go unalive yourself," or "Just go," or like,
mhm,
I could just do this." So I'm
mhm,
very careful with words, but it's because
mhm.
of the work I do.
Right. Well, I know many people have said, "Oh, take a long walk off a short pier, or just go jump in a lake," that kind of stuff. It's just like a throwaway, but it could.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, I say it
No, no,
could
no.
be very damaging if somebody took that to heart. You know.
I smiled because I saw a post this morning that said, um, "May you wake up just after, like, joy," or something. I don't know, because it's kinda like, "May your coffee be lukewarm," if people hate
Oh.
lukewarm coffee or something. So I
Right.
will get a little passive aggressive like that, where I might say something like that,
Yeah.
"May, both sides of your pillow be scalding hot," or I don't know, but,
Ooh, that's
uh,
dark.
but yeah.
Um,
But, like, you survive. You're okay.
right, right, right. Yeah, no, this trial is going to be interesting. Do you think he's going to take the stand? What's your thoughts on that?
I think he
Like, do you
wants to.
Yeah. Do you think his ego, like, have you seen enough of his ego? Do you think he'll take the stand?
I think he wants to be the victim in all this. I
Hmm.
think especially after listening to a psychiatrist say
Hmm.
that give, how someone could be coerced by somebody else to do a crime,
Hmm.
because I think they're gonna make him out to be the manipulator, and I think
Hmm.
he's gonna wanna get up there and say, well, she did this to me.
Hmm.
I think he's gonna wanna be the victim the same way he attempted that in the
Hmm.
police interview as well."
Right. Yeah, that's old Chinese saying, right? May you live in interesting times. I think every time is interesting. I think if you look back at time, like, I don't think like, humans have never lived in an uninteresting time. There's always war going on and famine, and there's always something going on. Some times are, I guess, more interesting than others. Um, if he does take the stand, that's to be determined, because the defense says we're not sure what the extent of our case in chief is going to be, and we haven't decided yet if he's going to take the stand. He's going to present himself, as you're saying. I think I agree with you on that for sure. He's going to present himself as, oh, woe is me, look at me, I'm the victim. Initially, when he was detained, he wasn't even arrested. He was detained. He's already saying, oh, I have PTSD, my friend. He's looking down. His affect is like, he's hunched in. He's not, broadly presenting himself. So I think we'll see that. What do you think about that? Like, how will he come across?
Um, I think it'll be similar, like, I think he'll try to come across, that I could never hurt anyone, I could never do those things, she was out to get me, she always said that she would make me pay.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll want to turn her into the villain, and
Mm-hmm.
we say DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kira, while I use the term victim, I think the true victim in this is Grace.
Yeah.
Grace just wanted a safe place for the night,
Mm-hmm.
and she had no idea what, and that's according to their story, because I don't know what her family would say in all of
Right.
this. And my heart truly breaks for her family.
Absolutely. Now, her mom showed up. Grace's mom
Yeah.
showed up that morning looking for her. So we know, or from Isaac's story, Grace contacted him saying, I need a safe space. Her mom shows up saying, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? So was Grace trying to escape? Oh, and then somebody, I think Dizzy said she read in that Santa Fe, New Mexican, that um, Grace was engaged and something was happening there. So I haven't read that article. I don't know about that, but it'd be interesting to hear from mom. I don't know if we will hear from mom. Like, why was she there? Was Grace trying to get away from her? Was she trying to?
And I
Yeah.
wonder if the mom was trying to come, like, pick her up from there or something, because it sounds
Hmm.
like there had been a history between her and Kiera. Do you know? Because
Oh
Kiera
yeah,
said
for
that
sure.
Grace had, like, threatened her with a knife in the past
Hmm.
or something,
Yeah, over a
and
Brady guy, or it could have been a girl. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was. Uh, Grace held a knife to Kiara's throat over a guy named Brady.
yeah.
So that yeah. And then, but Kiara was in the park apparently that night walking around with the sword. And that's what Isaac said. I'm like, how do you know, if you were in the bedroom, how do you know that Kiara's out in the park walking around with the sword? How do you know that? Yeah.
And, I think, so to me, this does look like to me, and I don't know this to be true, but to me, it looked like, because Isaac called his mom, knowing his mom was gonna call the cops. I
Hmm.
did listen to the phone recording between him and his mom. Did that
Hmm.
play for the jury yet or not yet?
Not in full. We
Okay,
just heard little clips,
okay,
just
okay,
little clips
okay.
outside the presence of the jury. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, and I thought some of their conversations, because once again, him making himself the victim, she did all of this to me. Now, I think their relationship was toxic.
Hmm.
Um, I think he attempted to look like she was the one with the power. I think she desperately wanted him and wouldn't, I don't know that Kiara would have fully let go of him. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think she was almost trauma bonded to him in a very unhealthy way.
Hmm.
And there's a part of me that wonders if he got something out of making her do things.
Hmm. Sure.
Or yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, he was getting kicked out by Kiara's mom, Lanny, and Kiara said, "I'm going to go live on the street." So she was manipulating her mom. If you kick out my guy, I'm going to go live on the streets with him. So that's her manipulating her mom.
And that's where boundaries stop manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my child is in an untoxic, is, like if that's my rule and that's what you say, and you're 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
okay. If you're going to
Right.
stay here, you need to this. Because even the
Right.
fact he listed his mother-in-law, that's what he said, his mother-in-law's house
Mm-hmm.
as his place of residence, and not like
Mm-hmm.
his parents, or
Right.
that was all very strange. But that was where he lived full time.
Right.
Was all along.
Now, his mom, because she has some issues with her lungs,
Okay.
he wanted to come over, and she's like, "No, use." Apparently, he had $3,000. She's like, "Go get a hotel for a night or two while you sort it out." So I wonder why he felt. Well, I was going to say, I wonder why he felt he had to stay with Kiara. I'm assuming it was because he was able to manipulate her and able to, to shape her.
And I don't know if he was really trying to get away with from her. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
was setting up. If he knew this was this plan,
Hmm.
because how, like, this is a perfect plan. Kiara thinks I'm leaving her, and she snapped, and
Hmm.
she's jealous. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially if you're going to try to make yourself out to be the innocent one in
Right.
the midst of this. Um, because so to me, some of the things I think are dark
Hmm.
is if Grace if there is no video. So I do think something bad happened to Kiara in her
Hmm.
childhood.
Hmm.
Possibly multiple things, but I do think something happened around that time, and she was
Hmm.
confused and didn't understand what really happened. I
Hmm.
think he knew that, and that's why I say you don't use hypnosis to try to find a memory, because people are
Hmm.
suggestible. And if and so he said, "Oh my gosh, I saw it. I there was this on the dark web. There's this
Hmm.
video, and
Hmm.
Grace is the one. Do you know?" And
Hmm.
because that makes her attached to him. I trust
Right.
you. I
Right.
love you. You would never lie to me.
Hmm.
And because even in her interview, she's questioning, I wonder if he's been lying to me. Like, she starts kind of questioning what she's believed.
Right.
And it's a lot.
Yeah. No question. All right. Let's jump to a few questions here. Jane asks, "Can you convince yourself you have DID by watching all the videos out there or playing online games?"
So that's where individuals with dissociative identity disorder, they um often the way they realize, because dissociation, everybody dissociates a little bit, but individuals with dissociative identity disorder are at the severe end. So a little bit of dissociation is like road hypnosis, where you're driving and then all of a
Mm.
sudden it goes from exit 130 to 118, and you have no recollection of driving for the past. It's like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
like, and you kind of come back to yourself.
Right. Right.
Moderate dissociation is kind of, I've worked with individuals where in the middle of stress, their boss is yelling at them, they feel themselves disconnecting, and it's
Hmm.
almost like they're watching themselves from the corner.
Hmm.
Severe, so dissociative identity disorder happens in severe, early, very, very, very early childhood trauma, often
Hmm.
repeated and chronic. And
Hmm.
it didn't happen to me, it happened to Susie. And every
Hmm.
time something bad happens, it didn't happen to me, it happened to this other person.
Hmm.
And the individual is often not aware of the other identities
Hmm.
through therapy, because they were like, yeah, I walked into Walmart and somebody came up to me and they were like, hey Jasmine, and I'm like, Jasmine?
Right.
Or a friend is like, all of a sudden they started talk they started like pretending they were acting like a baby all of a sudden,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't
Hmm.
respond to their name. And so it's a very debilitating, very distressing. It is not, it's not how things look. And once again, if somebody does a crime in an altered state, they can still be held responsible for that crime. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they'll be
Yeah.
found not guilty because they charge the host. So they would almost be like AKA. So let's
Hmm.
say the personality Jasmine did the crime, they
Hmm.
would say, the person's legal name also known as Jasmine.
Hmm.
They would include all of that. And
Right.
so, yeah.
Right. Interesting. This is a great question because I'm thinking the same thing. So we know Kiara had a motive, right? But why? What are you seeing so far? Why would Isaac want Grace
I think it
taken
was
out?
about control and
Hmm.
just curiosity about how far Kiera would go.
Mm,
And
wow.
I do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty dark. But didn't he care
Because I
about
think
Grace?
I thought on a video. So what was the call where he said Charles Manson? Because I know the defense got mad about that. The defense was
I'm
really
I missed that because our chat was
okay.
saying
Yeah,
Charles Manson, Charles Manson. Like, damn it, I missed that part. I was paying
I didn't
attention
hear
to
it.
something else, but
Yeah.
I totally missed that. But
Okay.
apparently, yeah, and that was the defense got very upset about that. That Charles Manson apparently he said, I guess he said that to his mom. Well, it was a phone call to his mom,
Okay.
and so he either said it or his mom said it. I didn't catch. Maybe somebody in chat will correct us. But it was definitely said, and the defense did not want that brought in.
Okay. And let me be very clear. I also do not believe that Kiara has dissociative identity disorder. There are
Hmm.
other the way that she talks about it, she clearly names her other alters. She's not actively in therapy. Like in order for people to kind of be aware of these other alters, it often comes out in therapy.
Hmm.
Where all of a sudden a client that I know as Taylor comes in and they're like dressed completely like it's a complete shift and
Hmm.
it's Jasmine actually comes to therapy and so um it's a lot. It really is a lot. Um
So do you treat the person that's presenting to you, or do you try to
You're
get?
often working on safety.
Yeah.
Many individuals with dissociative identity disorder, because in that dissociated state, they can sometimes harm themselves. So they
Hmm.
often get diagnosed in a mental hospital. I'll be
Hmm.
honest, not always, but a lot of times. Or it's
Hmm.
like through it's a really good therapist that refers them for a really thorough psychological. They're observed over a period of time because then I have to figure out who all is there, and
Yeah.
then I have to contract for safety with each one.
Hmm.
And the goal is to reintegrate the person eventually that it's
Hmm.
safe enough. So we kind of talk about because it'll be a 40-year-old that has no memory before 30 years old or so. Like there are these big gaps in
Hmm.
memory, but not like a normal, I don't remember my childhood. It's like they were completely just like they have like I have no recollection of Tuesday. Like they
Right.
lose large gaps of time,
Right. Right.
and it's very specific.
Right.
Um, uh, what's more common is a fragmented self, and that
Hmm.
happens in borderline personality disorder, and some of the histrionic personality disorder. There's some different personality disorders. I was thinking dependent personality disorder, where a person can't be alone but in
Hmm.
like a clinical, like in a way that severely impacts a person's functioning.
Hmm.
Um uh but yeah.
Do you think some of that could be her upbringing? And again, I don't want to like
Yeah.
trash anybody's parents or anything like that. But is that something that you would see an upbringing where somebody may be treated a certain way, whether they're coddled too much or they're not coddled enough, or whatever the case may be?
I would wonder if she ever reported trauma to
Hmm.
someone. I'd want to know how they handled it. So I've
Hmm.
worked with a lot of people that when they reported that something bad happened, they weren't believed, they were sent back to the same person, they
Hmm.
were encouraged to not tell. I remember I've worked with individuals that a family member did a crime and they reported the family member, and then the family hated them because the family member was deported or the family
Hmm.
member ended up in jail, or it's like you can't do this to your uncle, and it's like wait a minute. But like so the people start to focus on the family as a whole, and the
Hmm.
victim then gets stuck in this chronic state of victimhood,
Hmm.
and and even maybe even stuck at 14. So emotionally, Kiara came off very immature to me.
Yeah.
Very, very immature. And
Hmm.
Isaac in a way that like I think he thought he was fooling the detective, and I don't think he was. Like, the
No,
more
not at
he
all.
talked, the detective was like, "Oh, wow, you know, how do you know exactly 4:52? She arrived at 4:52 PM. How
Right,
do you?"
right. Yeah, and then there was one point where Brittany's like, he's going through the phone. He's like, Brittany, who's Brittany? Who's this Brittany? I love the detective. He's like my new favorite hero. I love him.
And
I can't wait for
and
him to take the stand. Sorry, go ahead.
there's one that says, so anybody can have gaps in memory because
Hmm.
of AD, because of like attention and focus,
Hmm.
because of trauma, because of a lot of different things. It does not mean that an individual has dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, I have gaps in my memory. When Aaron
Yes.
asked me to remember something, I'm like, what?
It was like Wednesday this week, and it felt like Monday. Like, I was like, "How is it? Where did the week go? How is
I
it
know.
already Wednesday?" Yeah.
Well, you talk about you driving down the road, and would that be daydreaming? Like I daydream all the time.
So it's more of like autopilot. So
Yeah.
I describe it as like but like that's not safe to like because I'm not fully present. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like when I
Yeah.
drive, I want to be grounded and present. And for
Right.
me, it's worse if I'm like tired or like if I'm
Mm-hmm.
stressed. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where I literally roll down the windows, I sing along to music.
Right.
I do something to stay. So there's something called grounding techniques. If
Hmm.
somebody is like checking out and kind of dissociating, your senses, like you can't think your way back. Like you can't be like, I need to, or it can be hard to snap yourself out of it. You
Hmm.
use your senses, what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, those types of things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
S Cube says, "Do they feel distressed from losing so much time?" I would think yes, but
Because also
what's
it's
your
like
experience?
what did you do? So like a person could
Right.
have used substances that and
Yeah.
they don't do substance. They could have engaged and they might be married and they like had
Right.
and they truly like it's not an excuse.
Right.
Like and so it can be a very, very distressing diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with United States of Terra? Do you know that series with Tony Collette?
I didn't watch it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like maybe 15 years ago, 10 or 15
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah, where she has all these different altered states, and it's pretty fascinating. It's
Cool.
very fascinating. Trial fans read Sybil twice.
Oh, cool.
I know it sounds crazy. We don't use that word here. No, only kidding. But I love that book. How do you know you're not crazy? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Nobody crazy is not in my DSM-5. You might have
Nope.
depression, anxiety, you might, but it's you
Yes.
and
The
it's
words
all about
expressed
functioning.
the words expressed by the host are not necessarily those by the by this channel. All right, let's see. Susan, let's get to some of these great comments. Mother said she was naive. Could he have that much power over her?
And I'm interested to hear the testimony from the psychiatrist because anybody
Mhm.
can. But I think there was a part of her that still won. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think it was this would never cross her mind. This dark space never existed in her.
Mhm.
It's it's a high control and I
Mhm.
think when she did what he wanted, there was likely peace. There was likely a
Mhm.
lot of conflict between both of them. Like
Mhm.
I think she could be explosive and a lot too. Um uh and I hope her release conditions are like I hope she has to do therapy and I don't know like I hope there's some very specific release conditions. She
Mhm.
initially was not found not competent to stand trial
Right.
cuz and competency to stand trial the bar is very low. It's like are
Mhm.
you talking to your lawyer? Do you know who the judge is? Do you
Mhm.
realize and so the fact that she was found not competent went to the state hospital and then was found competent but I
Mhm.
wonder if a part of that was breaking some of those delusions or some of the like and I can't wait to hear her testimony if she's
Mhm.
gonna describe it as like brainwashing and that she felt controlled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually what you just brought up about
Okay.
not talking to her counsel, that was the reason that she was found not competent. She was
Mm.
literally, it says she was not talking to her lawyers. What do you think about this happened basically Halloween, like right before Halloween. So November, I'm assuming probably the first or very close to the first week of November, she goes into evaluation, and then by December 31st. So to me, that's like maybe 5 weeks, 4 or 5, well, probably 5 weeks or so. Is that like How do you view that in identifying somebody's competency? Is that a short amount of time, long amount of time, average amount of time?
So I think Lori Vallow was like 9, 8 months, or I don't I think it was longer for
Yeah.
Lori to let her
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I know you say you talked to, but like the judge has authority over you. Like,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
I think Lori Vallow is like, no, Lori Daybell is like, nobody
Mm,
has authority over me.
right.
The fact that it was shorter, so she likely received therapy. There might have also been medication. So those
Hmm.
are two things. But it's hey, this is your lawyer. This is who's on your side. Like you, this is, and then sometimes when they go to the hospital, because I don't know if she was 'cause I know she was found incompetent, but when they go to the state hospital, um, and they're around people that are truly psychotic, and like sometimes you actively work to get out of that situation, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Oh, it definitely makes sense. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, I don't want to be here. I'd rather, yeah. Yeah.
So there's so and so is screaming all night, because sometimes that, like, I've worked all overnight in state hospitals,
Hmm.
and sometimes there are individuals that they just scream all night.
Hmm.
There's a forensic unit, so there is like a
Hmm.
separate forensic unit that has more
Hmm.
security, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, Ladybug says, okay, this goes back to your question. Can someone be coerced? Yeah, I think that was one of your questions from before. Um, yeah, can somebody be okay? So this was your original question. Can somebody be coerced into thinking they are not right? So let's talk about that.
So I think she looked up to him and thought he was smarter, knew more,
Hmm.
and I don't think she had a strong, stable, like, I don't know that she trusted herself. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
Like, I think she believed what he told her and didn't question it, didn't, but she did say that he thought of a diagnosis and she thought she had something different.
Hmm.
But, doing your own research online, while, that can be helpful, you still need to talk with a professional if
Hmm.
possible.
Sure.
Um, and but yes, individuals can be coerced. I am just naturally a, like, questioning, do you like, I'm just, I don't know, like, I let I'm planning a vacation, and if I had used a travel agent, it would have been so much easier, but I wanted the control of, like,
Hmm.
I wanna book my room, I
Hmm.
want to do all the things,
Hmm.
and so, but there are some people that are okay with letting other people make the decisions for them,
Right.
and I but because remember they were trying to level up, and I wonder if she
Hmm.
believed that she
Hmm.
was getting initiated into the group he was in.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I agree, and I think like a lot of people are looking for answers, and some people are a little bit more gullible than others.
Yes.
And I think from what I'm seeing, she, she was looking for that person. She was looking for that person to kind of take control, tell her what to do, even though she comes across as a very strong personality herself. Don't tell me what to do, kind of thing. And yet, it kind of seems like she fell into that trap, if you will, of him saying, there's traffickers out there, and you have to take out Grace in order to level up, to get to another level. So, uh, was she coerced or manipulated? I think there's, yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that she is very, she is gullible on one level. Her mom said, I think her mom's testimony was, I'm paraphrasing here, but she, it was, let me try and find that. Like, it was something to the effect of uh, Kiara,
Naive.
Carrie was
Naive.
naive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that's gullible. You can be, manipulated. You can be told, hey, the sky is not blue today. It's actually green. Oh, and then it becomes like this cult figure, and then we can dive into that whole thing with cult figures, and religious leaders even.
And that's where, so I do think she had a history of some type of trauma, and I think
Hmm.
her mom even got into that there was, like, medical, but and then her and Isaac had gotten into it physically back in April, and they had tried to break up, I think. And with any potential of her being on, like, the autism spectrum or anything, sometimes when people are odd, we
Hmm.
automatically go to autism spectrum. And that's
Hmm.
because I remember with I think it was Paul Ferguson with
Hmm.
the Timothy Ferguson case,
Yep.
Shanda Vander Ark
And there.
was,
Yep.
um, and the way that a person presents when they're trying to convince someone, because
Hmm.
I don't know if how she was in that video was the true Kiara. Do
Hmm.
you like, because it was very strange. It was very, very strange. And I am interested. I tried to research before this video,
Hmm.
because often when people are found incompetent, sometimes their mental health diagnosis is released. Hers
Hmm.
was not. I
Hmm.
couldn't find it. And I don't know if the defense will ask her about any diagnoses or if the state will preempt that with
Hmm.
asking her about any potential diagnoses or anything that she has.
Hmm.
Diagnosis just helps me understand. It doesn't excuse behavior. So,
Sure.
and what I mean by that is that, um, even if someone is coerced into doing a crime, they can still be held responsible for doing that crime.
Hmm.
And I think she's facing 15 years. Is that what she's facing? 15?
No, it's 30 to life,
30.
I
Okay,
think.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good.
No, she's 30. She's 30 years, and he's, I think, 30 to life.
Good.
Um, she came across much stronger in that interview. He came across as much more mild and meek. And actually, when I first watched it, I went to Aaron. I'm like, and I don't mean this in any way. I don't mean to be mean or anything, but and I judged him. Like, is he okay? Has he got something? Like, is there something going on with this guy?
It seemed
You know?
manipulative to me. It seemed like
Yeah,
he was trying to get the it seemed like he was telling a story. It
yeah,
reminded me, so I watched too much true crime. It
yeah.
reminded me of who was it? It was the guy that had the federal agent, the fake federal agent that was doing all his bidding.
Oh, Casotis,
Casotis,
James Casotis. Yeah, or
Nicholas, was
Nick,
it
Nick.
Nicholas?
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah,
Yep, yep.
Nicholas Casotis. It reminded
Yes.
me of him. Once
Yep.
again, like, poor me, I'm the victim,
Hmm.
I'm so meek, I could never do the thing.
Right.
And the fact that, um, yeah, it was just it's all very strange.
Yep. If you can't leave, it's a cult.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and then like he came across as very meek and mild, and then he was reciting like exact like a year, a year and 1 month, or 1042, like it was kind of like a Rain Man kind of thing. Like that's why I'm like,
But
what's his story?
so it sounded planned to, like,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about what I would say when I was interviewed by detectives. It sounded
Hmm.
like a story he was telling
Hmm.
versus just saying what happened. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it worked on me. I swear the first 10 minutes, I was
Aw.
like, I kind of felt sorry for him. I'm like, oh, this guy, this is going to be really tough for the jury. Now I'm like, oh my God, no,
But
dude.
I just watched it today, so I had
Mm.
already heard. So,
Yeah.
to get prepared for this, I caught up on that part today.
Yeah. And then once those text messages came out, and his whole just story fell apart. And the
It wasn't
detective is,
me. It
yeah,
wasn't, it was a there's another phone, like,
yeah,
all this.
yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah.
It
And
wasn't me.
was it throat or thoughts? And he's like, no, it's a throat. I don't know. He tried to, I forget what's the word, thought or throats or something like that. And the detective's like, what do you mean by this? And then he spins this story. I'm like, oh, my friend, you are so cooked. All right, Barry, if you told her to toss her phone and say Slender Man made her do it, would we be here? uh, Good question, Barry.
The Slender Man ones, they went to jail. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, nah, they went to it was mental hospital. Sorry, it wasn't jail. But he would have been silly and messaged it, so we would have known. We would have
Mm,
known about it.
that's
So,
true. Yeah. Heidi, why does
don't do
everyone
crimes.
feel, oh, sorry.
There you
Why
go.
does everyone feel the need to diagnose just stupid people? Well,
And so that's where sometimes I do say that some people, they just have these dark, and it's not a diagnosis. It's
mhm,
just there's this dark evil. It's just ugh. Like, there's just
yeah.
sometimes it's just that. I do think she has a history of PTSD herself.
Mhm,
Um, I think he tries to control people. Um, and it was, and I think him trying to make himself small, it reminded me, I can't diagnose him with anything, but it reminded me of, like, a vulnerable narcissist, where it's
mhm,
like, where they're coming off like I don't think I'm that smart. I don't think I'm this. People talk bad about me all the time. But once
mhm,
again, they're trying to play into, I'm the victim, help me, help protect me from Kiara almost.
mhm, mhm,
And uh then didn't realize they were gonna find all the messages.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people aren't born evil, right? People don't, you know, you just don't, you're not born Hitler, right? It comes from, I guess, feelings, being the victimization, or having things done to you that you don't agree with, hanging out with people. It's like kind of that. Then you get into that sort of peer peer pressure, mob mentality, and all that. But like with Isaac, maybe as a child, he manipulated, like something happened to him and it didn't have to be traumatic or whatever, but maybe he got caught breaking something and then he's like, oh, mom, I didn't mean to do it. And then he turned into this victim and mom's like, okay, it's okay. So he learned that behavior of like, ooh, if I turn myself into a victim, I can get away with stuff.
And not accept responsibility
Right.
and kind
Right.
of like push it off.
Right.
Because I think his parents believed Kiara was the bad one. I think
Mhm.
they believed the narrative
She's a
that
witch. She's a witch. His dad called her a witch. Mom is doing the sign of the cross with oil at the courthouse. I mean, I'm not here to say anything against anybody's religious
yeah.
beliefs, but goodness gracious, because
And
I.
and some people might view like they're persecuting my son because I don't know, it's like it could go which is and each person has to navigate this as best they can. Because you would have to admit as a parent, my child was a part of this horrible scheme. And
Mhm,
sometimes that can be hard to admit
100%.
and
Yeah.
accept.
We ask this question often when it's victim impact statement time. Would you, like, if this was your son, would you go up and would you say, hey, as a kid, he was pretty cool. He was a sweet, he was loving, or would you be like, nope, throw the book at him. I don't care anymore. Like personally, what would you do if that was your child or your sister or
So
brother or whatever?
I would have encouraged my child to take a deal. They
Yeah.
offered him a deal.
They did, and
Don't
we don't know the results of that because it's the state didn't put it on the record, so we don't know what his deal was.
you wanna go with your lawyer? And it's not that I wouldn't but I'm not putting money on my child's books,
Hmm.
and I've seen the evidence, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've seen I believe in, choices have consequences,
Hmm.
and,
Yeah.
uh,
Like
um
Isaiah Chance's mom, right? She was that was a very beautiful impact statement. She's like, hey, I trust the system.
yeah,
He did wrong, and he's still a good kid. I still love him. I'm still going to keep talking
mhm,
to him, but he's got to accept his responsibilities.
I
Or
would I would
response. Yeah. Sorry.
I would say something like that, but I wouldn't, um, uh, be up there, like, bashing Kiara or if it's true, if I did encourage my child, "Hey, I'd be careful with that, watch out for red flags," if I was saying anything,
Mm-hmm.
but also encouraging my child to be safe because sometimes it's toxic together, and you don't
Hmm.
always know what's really going on, so that part.
Absolutely. No, it's okay. Janet, Dr. Barry, did you get a chuckle out of Isaac diagnosing himself as a germaphobe?
I missed that part because it almost came off like obsessive personality disorder, just the way and not like I think this was a part of because even him mentioning being a germaphobe, that might have been about not touching the blood and not
Yeah.
wanting to get dirty or
Right.
something.
Right.
Um,
This is a great question, Carolina. Good to see you. We do not know what the deal is with Kiara's father. Have you heard anything? Have you
no.
done any? Yeah, yeah. I have not heard anything about that. Let's see what else. We got some great questions. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Jane, what's with Isaac and his voice in the police interview, and then his voice sounds so normal talking to his mom? Yeah, did you catch that? Like in once he was detained, and then of course in the interview, he's sounds like almost like a child almost, and then with his mom, he's almost completely different.
But I think he was trying to convince and trying to make himself like small and
Hmm.
meek and
Hmm.
I could never hurt a fly
Yeah.
type of thing.
Right. See, does that go back to then as a child he did something and he got busted and then he's like, and then he was exonerated. He was like, oh, don't worry, with a little pat on the back because apparently he says his mom is the only one that he can go to. It seems like dad might be the hard ass, and mom's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's okay, kid, don't worry about it.
And so that's where sometimes a parent can enable their child's behavior
Hmm.
and, But I think she did, because I guess when it came to the health of the family, because she didn't let him come over, like when he wanted to come over.
That's true. No, she drew the line with that. Yeah, she drew
And
the line with
I
that.
wonder if he wanted to be away and if he would have been texting Kiara to do the thing and
Hmm.
not have been there. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just
Right.
I just I don't know. My heart breaks for Kiara's mom, because this, I don't know if she still lives there, but like this happened in her house. And now
Yeah.
her house
It's
is
for
like,
sale. It was for
so
sale. I
bad.
did notice that. I didn't go through. I should go through the if it was sold afterwards, but they
Yeah.
fixed it up. I mean, it's a
Okay.
nice little house. Yeah,
Good.
it's a
Aw.
nice little house. But the garage is still there, so I don't know. I guess they have to disclose.
And I think the jury's gonna go are they gonna do, yeah, the jury's gonna go see it? I think I heard you mention that. Is that
Oh,
for this one, or is that a different one? It
oh
might be a
no,
different,
yeah, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
might be a different case.
Yeah.
I wish.
Lily Wayne, yeah, that is the question. Are you born that way or do you become that way? I personally think you're not born evil. You're not born Hitler, but I don't know. I
It's
mean,
the nature versus nurture. So,
yeah.
if a parent has like psychopathy, so, and that's antisocial personality disorder, but at an extreme where an
Mhm.
individual is, but then, because you just wonder the role that the environment, the role that everything else
Of course. Yeah.
plays into things. And so you can never truly know nature versus nurture.
Right.
And people can always make choices. So my goal, the reason why I like talking about these things, is
Mhm.
most individuals that experience trauma find meaning and purpose, and they
Mhm.
often become protective of
Mhm.
people, uh, animals, and like they often become protective of others.
Mhm.
There's a small segment of people that don't do their own healing, they don't do their own work, because I don't care what happened to someone. Like they are responsible to heal. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I can't change the past. All I can control is my thoughts, my behaviors, and if I struggle with that, getting help and support is, which can be hard to find the right therapist and all those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
But because often people will blame, like, I'm this way because of my mom. I'm this way
Mm.
because of this. I do this
Right.
because, and it's like, well, like, but we're 60 now. Like, I think.
Yeah. 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 Take a little responsibility for those 50 years of your life that you were not, or 40 years of your life that you were not with your parents. Ladybug's mom, my parents told me if the police feel compelled to take me to jail, then you must have done something wrong. Please don't call me.
I was a part of a peaceful protest, and I told
Mhm.
my mom before, I was like, "Hey, if I get arrested, please answer." Like, I was just like, I didn't, I'm not gonna break any laws. We
Right.
did go into the dean's office without permission, and I was getting worried, because
Yeah.
we probably were trespassing, but I wasn't gonna like damage property or do anything like that.
Right. Right.
But yeah,
Were you
but
detained?
no, no, no. So we
Oh.
weren't like, so it was an organized thing where they
Hmm.
knew we were gonna be there, and
Gotcha.
it was a very peaceful, positive. The dean wasn't even there. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know, because it was scheduled. Everybody knew. People took some pictures. It was,
Gotcha.
yeah, it was
Was
what
it
it was.
was it for to add more chocolate ice cream on the menu?
I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish.
Well, my parents and my mom said this to me when I was like 17 or 18. She's like, if you get caught, no, she said,
No.
well, we know you're going to do things, just don't call
Mm.
us from jail. So
Yep.
I was like, okay, that allowed me then to just allow to ride just underneath the line of getting caught. So I walked up to that line, but I never went over because I'm like, I knew I could never call my parents.
Mm, mm.
And that holds true to this day. Arwen, what about Isaac's mom? Yeah, how is she in denial? Right, she knows that her daughter is getting pimped out. She's being trafficked. How? Well, I guess in her
So,
defense, she said,
you mean Isaac, right? So Isaac's
"Oh,
mom?
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, Isaac's mom. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking
You're good.
about Lon.
You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's bring that back, Chris. All right, Isaac's mom, Linda Montoya. How is she in denial? You want to talk about that a little bit?
I think the relationship was likely mutually toxic. So I don't
Hmm.
think Isaac was the only person that was toxic. Like, I think they probably did scream, yell. The relationship was likely toxic.
Hmm.
And um his family probably doesn't like that he's been portrayed as the orchestrator, the manipulator, because they likely see him different.
Hmm.
And there's something called confirmation bias, where when information doesn't agree with what I already believe, it's really easy to just disregard it.
Hmm.
So, uh, one time my kid, he came up to me and he was like, and it was like for a few days, he was like, this kid at lunch keeps touching my food. He keeps touching my food. He keeps touching my food. And so
Hmm.
eventually I pull him to the side and I'm like, hey, I'm about to call his mom. Like you need to tell me now.
Hmm.
Like if this you have you won't even be in like you need to tell me now if this is true. And Mike, he was honest and he was like, oh nope, it wasn't. Nah, my bad. I just don't like the kid. Okay, you cannot like him, but don't lie. Like
Right.
that's it's not okay to lie on somebody else. Like,
Right.
no.
Right.
And but as a parent, because there was a part of me that wants to think my child is telling the truth, but I have to know all kids lie. All kids lie. Like people lie. And so but I think
Right.
his family, I think they 100% believe him. I don't think there's any part of them that thinks that he's not telling the truth.
Hmm.
And they likely feel because Kira's the one that did it. Do you know like she I
Yeah,
mean
that's
that's
not up for debate. We know that for sure. Yeah, it's and they're going to. I think his family is going to believe that because as we saw in their interview, we talked earlier about that. Dad says she's a witch. Um, I think even mom was saying they. I think they met or they were going to like acting classes or something like that. Did you catch that? Yeah.
yeah.
So um, not that that's I'm trying to relate that to Kiara being bad for him, but I don't think that was really that.
So, but the mom was almost saying that she thought Kiara was acting. So, like when
Oh, okay.
Kiara was like, but and Kiara wasn't even the one that blamed him. Like she didn't even
Right.
like she didn't even think that
Hmm.
he was the one that got her to do it. Do you-
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It didn't cross her mind. Didn't come across in the interview at all. You're right. No, you're absolutely right. This is a great question because now we're seeing this the thing out of those
Oh,
16 kids out of Ohio.
yes.
Apparently, they lived in that. Uh, okay, let's talk about: is there a connection then between hoarding and being in a messy environment? Is there a connection with that and mental illness?
Um, so sometimes individuals that are very severe hoarding because so hoarding can have so I am a low level hoarder like I like right now there are piles of stuff in my office off camera and I do so a few times a year I get rid of stuff but there are
Hmm.
some people where the hoarding gets so bad they won't throw away trash they
Hmm.
won't throw away like decaying food like
Hmm.
they won't throw away anything
Right.
but I don't know that this was I wonder if there was any substances. Like, I don't know if that was hoarding or if that was just neglect, because
Hmm.
there's a difference.
Right.
Like,
The
yeah.
garage was pretty nasty. There was, and the
Oh,
officers even said it was.
I'm sorry, New
He,
Mexico. I'm sorry. So I was
yeah.
I was thinking about the Ohio kids. So
Oh,
when I
okay. Yeah.
said all that,
No, no, it's
I
okay.
was thinking about the Ohio kids.
Okay.
If I could go back, someone did mention that Kiara's mom might have had like depression or something. I don't know if that's true, but and it was her garage. So like I don't know, like that might have where she put and they live there. And
Hmm.
so I don't think they cleaned it up. Do you know like
No. Yeah.
they lived in there. So
Yeah. I can't imagine. Then, yeah. I mean, even the officers said they couldn't even see the. Um, was it that? No. Okay. I'm thinking there's another case that just happened where that little kid who was like 7 years old and he was like 255 pounds. Did you hear about that?
yes,
And
yes.
they went in and they couldn't even tell if it was carpeting or hardwood floors. There was so much trash on the floor.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like what we saw Lanny's house. We saw the garage. I mean, it was, and she apparently cleaned and was doing laundry that day. Um,
But I think she put it on them. Like y'all are 20, like y'all clean. And I don't think they
yeah,
cleaned up after themselves. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. It's a shame. I mean, is there something with cluttered mind, cluttered
Mm.
house, cluttered mind? I mean, clean house, clean mind. Is there something? I know I like to cook and I watch a lot of chefs, and it's like always clean your station. If you have a clean station, you're gonna be a good chef. If you have a cluttered station,
So sometimes people that are like depressed or if there are other things going on but also like to me in my mind I think she might have just been irresponsible. You know, like
hmm
sometimes so when I was a teenager, my room was a mess. Sometimes you couldn't see my floor
hmm
because it was just I was I was a kid. Sometimes with ADHD, there can be difficulty with like completing tasks. Sometimes with other diagnoses, there can be this lack of motivation, lack of follow through. And then sometimes when two people are living together, sometimes like nobody takes responsibility to clean it up or
Mhm.
to do, and it's not mental health at all. They just didn't do it, and they they didn't see anything wrong with it. I don't know.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't know if you can answer this because this falls under
Yeah.
medications. Are you able to answer this? Do you try to avoid medicating patients at all costs, unless of course it's absolutely necessary?
So I encourage people to have medical decisions with their doctor. There are some things that where I will make a recommendation to consider it. So if
Mhm.
somebody is actively psychotic, like we were talking about with schizophrenia, because being off medication can be can just it can cause clients to spiral and end up in the hospital. And so there are certain diagnoses that we know do well on medication. If somebody has severe ADHD and they've crashed 3 cars in the past 3 months, then like it's
Mhm.
like, well, like you might like, ugh, or we got to
Mhm.
take the bus, or I don't know, like we got to figure
Mhm.
out how to manage things. But
Mhm.
that's always a decision somebody's making with their medical doctor. I'm also open to natural options. So some clients do like brain training. They do other procedures that can be supportive. Um, yeah. So, but medication is always up to the client and their doctor.
Gotcha. This kind of goes back to our little quick conversation about hypnosis. Is it even admissible?
Depends
Uh,
on the state, but, like, you
yeah,
wouldn't want a confession that was done under, 'cause it's so suggestible, and
yeah.
there's a ton of research about false memories, false testimony, like, there's a lot of, so I have never recommended that somebody do like, if they couldn't remember their childhood and they wanted hypnosis to remember,
Mm-hmm.
because that can cause problems. Hypnosis to stop smoking or hypnosis to, like, if somebody's trying to break a behavior or a pattern, I've seen that be helpful, but not for like trauma and memories, stuff like that.
Right, right. This is actually the final question. This really doesn't have anything to do with either of these trials, but that is interesting. What about night terrors? What exactly are night terrors?
So in children, there are nightmares, and a
Mm-hmm.
nightmare is when a child has a distressing dream. You wake them up, they remember the dream, and then hopefully they're able to go back to sleep. A night terror is a child just screaming in the middle of the night. You wake them up and they're confused. They're like, "What are you talking?" Like they don't. So they were screaming and they're having a night terror, but they
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any memory of the actual dream. A lot of children grow out of that. Some adults may have night terrors, but that's where a sleep study is often done to help diagnose. Sometimes when individuals have like insomnia and they lack sleep, sometimes there can be things that happen too with that.
Gotcha. We just finished watching the last season of The Bear, and are you familiar? Okay, yeah.
We finished it last night.
Oh, okay. Well, Richie touching everything. He's like wheel, shirt, desk, and it still didn't help him. So
So that season was that season
five.
5? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
See, sometimes I'm watching, but I'm not really. So I think I
yeah.
was so we're we're going on a cruise, and I was registering for the cruise. And so while I was focused on something else.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is that a therapeutic? Is that therapy where you ground yourself? You were talking about grounding yourself. So right now I'd be like microphone, shirt. Is that something that
So
you use?
grounding techniques, so it's just a therapeutic or like a positive. It's like meditation can be a positive thing anybody can
Mhm.
do, but grounding techniques, sometimes it's 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you touch. And so sometimes you
Mhm.
go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you
Mhm.
search grounding techniques, different options can come up. If somebody has like panic attacks,
Mhm.
sometimes grounding, because sometimes a person can feel like disconnected from their body during a panic
Mhm.
attack. And
Mhm.
the more freaked out they are about it, the longer the panic attack can last. And so, grounding techniques can sometimes be be helpful. Ice to the back of the neck is it activates the parasympathetic or relaxation. Holding cold ice in your hand, those types of things.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Richie was suffering panic attacks. I think that's
Okay.
why he was doing the grounding. Yeah. So, all right, I think we're good to go. What a fantastic stream! I'm so happy that you came on and talked to us about all this. And I think with Lindsay Clancy, I think we should definitely have another get together at that point. And Carlos might be done by then. She starts, I think, on the 20th. That's jury selection, which is another 2 weeks. Yeah. It's not this week, it's next week. You're going on a cruise, so we won't bother you. Are you going to do any streams while you're on your cruise or no? You're shutting.
I'm going to record some content to make it tax deductible.
There you go.
But and so the cruise is a little bit, because I'm doing just like a family thing later this week, and then the cruise is in August.
Gotcha.
My mom is turning 70, and so we're super excited about that.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you once again. And we'll definitely touch base for Carlos once he has a verdict. And then also maybe Lindsay Clancy might be rolled into that. And then also the verdict here, because I think we'll have a verdict probably by Wednesday or Thursday. So we'll have to touch base in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Berry. All right. Take care. All right. So once again, thank you guys for spending your afternoon with us. Thank you, Dr. Berry, for a very illuminating, educational stream. We learned a lot here. I'm sure we will have some more questions for you as we continue on watching these trials. I want to thank our mods. I want to thank Aaron. I want to thank everybody that had something to do with this. And again, thank you guys for spending your afternoon with us. We will continue with Isaac Apodaca on Monday. So please join us then. And until then, have a great rest of your weekend. Make sure you do something grounding, because these are very emotional trials we watch. We don't shy away from the brutality sometimes, but you have to just do things to get yourself grounded and make yourself right again. So with that, I will say goodbye to you all. And let me just put myself, go over here. And have a good rest of your weekend, guys. Okay.